everybody, and welcome back to Blue Jays Today. Coming to you from the Sports Interaction Studio, where we always got something to say about the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm your host, Adam Tuttle.
And I'm your host, Nicholas Playalog. We just got the ALCS Toronto Blue Jays roster, so we are going to be breaking that down in this one. We are also going to be live later this evening, folks, for Game 1 against Seattle. If you haven't already done so, please hit that like, smash that subscribe button, and if you have the option to do so, please hit that hype button as well. I know we're all feeling pretty hype right now, and it does help the YouTube algorithm and helps us grow. Let's flash over immediately to that roster. Now, there isn't a whole lot of crazy changes. It's honestly kind of what we expected, other than the fact that on the offensive side of things, there is no Bichette. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, he gets one more series.
He does. And then the guys who are leaving the roster are Tommy Nance and Justin Bruhill. And then coming in are Chris Bassitt and Max Scherzer. Those are the major changes. But to your point, yeah, the major one right now is Bichette. We were making podcasts, breaking down Jamie Campbell's tweet, being like, he hinted at the fact that he might be on the roster for the ALCS. That's just not the case, everybody. He was in some severe discomfort when he ran the bases yesterday, according to Hazel May. And you don't just take her word for it. You can literally look at the video of yesterday of him running the bases. Shout out to Sportsnet for providing this video. It just did not look good. He hit the bag hard, rounding second.
Yeah, you can see right there, Taylor. I think everyone knows that feeling. It's oh, something's not right there.
And then look at him shake his head. Nope, not okay. And then he just pops a squat, has to take a breather. I mean, hell, like this is the point we were bringing up. Like, even if he did DH for the ALCS, how's he going to round the bases? Like, is he going to pinch run for him after he gets on base one time? Like, that's what it would have to be, because he's going to clog up the bases. He can't go first to third. He literally can't. He had to stop. He can't go second to home on a single. So I think it's for the best. Like, you don't want to injure him right now. And the Blue Jays still are able to win ball games without Bichette. But let me throw it over to you. Like, how are you feeling that Bichette won't be here against the Mariners?
Listen, I'm really disappointed, and I'm about to say something that people don't even want to think about right now. But it's possible if we don't make it to the World Series, knock on wood, I hope we do. But it's possible that Bichette will never be in a Toronto Blue Jays uniform again. So that whole side of things is very disappointing to me. Also, as well, just having him on this team and having him perform at the caliber that we know that he can, that would be a major boost to this lineup up against a team that is really good in the pitching side of things. All that being said, though, I do think that looking at that clip, it's clear that he probably would have been given away at bats for free. I mean, if he can't run, like if he can literally only make it from first to second, running at about 75% of what a sprint would be for him, do we really expect that he's going to come in here and, start going 2 for 4 or 3 for 4 and hitting home runs? Probably not, right? I mean, it's probably going to affect his swing as well. And then to your point, even if he does get a hit, at the very, the maximum possibility here is he's going to get a single, because he's not going to be able to run to second base. So, yeah, I just think it is ultimately for the best. However, very disappointed that we're not going to have him. And ultimately, I hope it rallies the boys to go and to get to the World Series, because that could be the last chance that Bichette has with this team to go and win one.
I agree. And, Bichette, look, he's got 2 more weeks. I thought maybe an ALDS would be enough time to get healthy. Clearly not. 2 weeks is a little bit more time, because let's say if the Blue Jays, knock on wood, do go to the World Series, you would have about roughly, I think it's 12 or 13 days. It's the following Friday, not this Friday, but the one after is when the World Series would start. Now, I'm no doctor. I mean, it looks like he's making progressions. Like, will 2 weeks kind of get him back into that lineup, maybe into a DH role where he can somewhat round the base as well? Possibly. I don't know. If you're a doctor, let us know. But if that happens, I would imagine they're going to force him on the roster in some capacity, because the World Series will last the same amount of time as the ALCS, which is about that 12, 13 day mark. I would imagine he'd be on for there. But the boys, they got to pick him up and get him there. The boys picked up him in the last series against the Yankees. Obviously, Clement was phenomenal. Guerrero, 1J of the series. He was outstanding. And then Dalton Varsho. We got to have boys in this series step up and do what these guys did against the Yankees, because, we need to replace that Bichette production.
And it's unrealistic to expect Ernie Clement to be batting 600 for the entire postseason. Exactly. And same with Guerrero as well. I mean, this is a completely new series. We know that he kills the Yankees. How is he going to do against the Seattle Mariners? It's going to take more than just 3 hot bats to make it to the World Series. And then to ultimately win that thing, right? You're going to need a multitude of other individuals. Now, in their histories and in their careers, two guys that we're kind of looking at and thinking, okay, maybe they get a little bit of the Vladdy juice from New York. Might be Addison Barger and Alejandro Kirk. Yeah. Now, Barger especially, it's a small sample size because, I mean, the guy hasn't been in MLB for that long. But in the 6 games that he's played against the Seattle Mariners, he has done very well. He's batting .350. He's got an OPS over 1. So maybe there's something there. Maybe he likes how the ball comes out of the hand of some of those Seattle pitchers. Alejandro Kirk, significantly greater sample size against the Seattle Mariners.
This is just this year, by the way. Just 2020.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification then. He's batting .500, though, against them this year, and an OPS over 1 against Seattle. So potentially there's something with those two lads where, you know what, maybe I don't know who that was up against. Maybe it was Luke Castillo, Logan Gilbert. Maybe they like those guys. They like the way that the ball looks out of the hand, and maybe they can kind of pick up where Ernie Clement and Dalton Varsho and Vladdy were leaving off.
Yeah, exactly. We need to have it happen because if you don't, if the whole offense goes cold, that's the #1 way you win ball games this year as the Toronto Blue Jays in 2025.
I'm not worried about that, though. I really don't think
I'm not worried about it either.
I'm not worried that the whole offense is going to go cold.
No, I'm not either. I'm just saying if it does, that's a recipe for failure. You need guys to pop off like you did in New York, right? Like if they can do that in the ALDS, absolutely money, then you're going to be punching your ticket, I would assume, into the World Series because that's how they win. If their offense is clicking, which I assume that they will, then they're absolutely going to be giving themselves the best chance. Boys like Barger, boys like Kirk, and fuck it. I know Kirk, Vlad doesn't have the greatest numbers against Seattle this year. I think it's around a low 800 OPS. You got to pop off too. Take that momentum, take that energy and that fire and that passion you had against the Yankees, apply it here to the Mariners and get your revenge in this series.
Now, looking at the other side of things, the pitchers, Bassitt and Scherzer. We weren't 100% sure about Scherzer making the roster, but when I was on the radio yesterday talking with Mike, shout out to him, he did bring up the idea of, well, hey, listen, this is a 7-game series. That's obviously longer than a 5-game series, and maybe you're going to need a little bit more length out of that pen than you did against New York. And, I mean, there's something to that. So Max Scherzer makes the roster. Chris Bassitt makes the roster. There's a little bit of discourse right now on whether or not one or both of them will actually start a game. The way that I'm looking at this right now is I don't want to see Max Scherzer starting a ball game. I want him to, and if he does start a ball game, it's got to be a 1 or a 2 inning type thing. I just don't trust the way that he looked leading up to the postseason. I do think that having somebody in that pen, if he's willing to do so, if you're in a ball game and this guy can only go 2 innings or something like that, we need somebody to bridge us over to the back part of the pen. Maybe Max Scherzer could do that. It's not going to be a relaxing situation. It will definitely be some stressful innings right there, but I think that's why you brought him. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I don't feel comfortable throwing Max Scherzer out there. Now, John Schneider did start a ball game. Now, here's what John Schneider said. He said that, what he describes as Chris Bassitt, he says he does weird well, right? When asking about the roles and what Chris Bassitt could be looking like on the roster, he does weird well. What does that tell me? Probably coming out of the bullpen in some capacity. We can't forget that he also was injured too, and he hasn't faced a lot of live hitting. But before the injury, he was fantastic. But he does weird well. That tells me, and I think back to midway through the year when he came out of the bullpen, he said, I want to do whatever chance or whatever it takes to win a World Series. Maybe he could be coming out of the bullpen in some bulk capacity. Maybe Scherzer faces the beginning of the lineup, and then it's Chris Bassitt piggybacking or Chris Bassitt piggybacking off Trey Savage. I feel like that might be a hint of what his role is, and we're not for sure. What do I feel about that? I kind of want him to start games. I don't like him to do some weird well stuffs. I want him to start a game. Max Scherzer, though, the other side of things, we don't really know what he is able to do out of the bullpen. He doesn't really pitch out of the bullpen. Maybe he's only comfortable in a starting role. So it's a little bit of a balance here if you're John Schneider on where to manage these boys. Personally, I would have Chris Bassitt starting and Max Scherzer in the pen, but I'm also not the manager of the Blue Jays and don't know how these guys play.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I don't think that, you can immediately say just because he said Chris does weird well that means that Scherzer is going to start.
Right. You got process elimination, right?
Maybe, but again, like that's so ambiguous. Like again, we don't know. I don't think you can say that and be like, oh well, this means Max is obviously starting a game.
No, I said it could be. It could mean.
Sure, yeah, and I think it also could mean that Chris could also start a game. Also, could see him out of the pen, and I think that's like really it is an all hands on deck thing. I think that the way that they approached game 4, I believe it was against the New York Yankees, where we were saying, hey, listen, everybody's available at any given point. Like obviously you're walking into game 1 and Kevin Gausman is going to be your guy, but as the series progresses, like there's going to be some other situations that are going to call for different things. We saw the Seattle Mariners in game 5 throwing out Logan Gilbert and Louis Castillo out of the pen, and obviously just because they had to, right? And that's just what the situation called for. So I do think that having those guys on the roster is probably better than having a Tommy Nance or a Justin Bruhill, just because ultimately, I mean, at the very least, I can assure you that Tommy Nance and or Justin Bruhill wouldn't be starting a game. And I mean, at least Chris Bassitt and Max Scherzer have that potential.
Now, they haven't confirmed exactly when these guys will be starting, only Kevin Gausman for today's game. But hypothetically, it should be Trey Savage going tomorrow. Same thing they did when they rolled out in the ALDS, have Trey go game 2 at the Rogers Center. Then it would likely be Bieber game 3. Now, here's the difference about the ALDS and ALCS. If you're new here to baseball, you got 3 games in a row on the road that you got to play in. So it's an off day on Tuesday, then you go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So unlike the Blue Jays when they played the Yankees in the ALDS, where you can just unload your bullpen in game 4, then you get an off day going back to Rogers Center game 5, you kind of can't do that in a game 4 situation because you got to play the very next day. So in that situation, that's probably where you're going to see that weird combination, my guess, of some sort of Chris Bassitt, Max Scherzer combination, and then game 5 probably rolling it back to Kevin Gausman is what it probably feels like. And then you only have to see those guys start one of them one time, and then probably, if it comes to it, game 7, some weird combination again of everybody in that whole pitching staff.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even be surprised either if one of them came out of the pen at some point before that, right?
True,
again,
yeah.
like we don't know
if Trey doesn't go.
Exactly. If Bieber doesn't go, I mean,
no.
Bieber only went 2.2 innings or something like that when he went.
Yeah.
So I don't think.
Yeah.
I think like there's no guarantee on length from any of these starters. And I guess the one thing, if I'm to play devil's advocate here, like if Max Scherzer was to start a game, it is abundantly clear that the hook will be like very quick, right? I mean, he's shown that with everyone, and everyone's kind of doing that in postseason MLB right now. I think that is just the way that baseball is going. I mean, if you see your starter getting into any type of problems, bang, immediately you're out, and we're gonna have some type of augmented bullpen day. And we did see that with Shane Bieber, and I could imagine that the leash would be even shorter for Max Scherzer. So
the one thing I am concerned, and this is why I am concerned about Max Scherzer starting first, right? Is that, he's got a 1.208 OPS in the first inning. Like he gets actually destroyed. This is in 2025 for Max Scherzer. So that's why I'm concerned if he is to start first. I almost want him coming out of the pen. But again, that's a conversation that John Schneider's got to have with those guys. Like, hey, these are your numbers. Like, this is why you should be in the pen. You know what I mean?
And I mean, it's not incredible like the 3rd or the 4th inning, but that 2nd inning, for whatever reason, is great with Max Scherzer. So maybe if you did want to have some situation where, hey, Varland, you want to pitch one inning, and then maybe Scherzer comes in for 2, 3, 4, and then Bassitt can follow that. Again, we're playing armchair GM. Time will tell, and I think situation will tell as well. I mean, if we're up by 3 games by that point, by the time we're starting, maybe that changes things too. So we shall see, everybody. I see that you got the Mariners roster right here. Did this just come out?
This just came out while we were recording here, everybody. Mariners are adding Brian Wu to the roster. There were some question marks, alongside Bichette question marks on whether or not Brian Wu will be back. That's a big one right there. That's a guy who's definitely had one of the best years on the Seattle Mariners. But again, coming off injury, right? Same questions that we brought up with Chris Bassitt. How is he going to perform after an injury? And some time off, not facing live hitting. We don't know. So just something to note there. We'll see when he gets deployed. Probably, I would expect, honestly, in the next probably 2 games. Not today, obviously, because of Miller, but probably game 2 because that weird situation happened with him and the Tigers on Friday.
Yeah.
When they pitched everybody.
Ton of righties over there I'm looking at right now. They
Not
have
a lot of lefties.
They have literally 2 lefties on the entire roster. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe that Gabe Spear or Caleb Ferguson are starters for them that we're going to be seeing.
Bullpen guys.
So,
I think they actually had one against the Tigers, and then they must have added a lefty because the Blue Jays are pretty left-handed.
Right.
So I think that was the thing. But again, that goes to show, like, Hey, look, I trust our guys to get out any one of these guys. If you're not a quality left-hander, I trust our boys a little bit.
You know, I'm looking at this right now, and I really hope that this doesn't mean that we're never going to see Davis Schneider, because like, you know what?
I know.
Yeah,
I thought about that too.
Like
I thought about that too.
I really, because again, there's hardly any lefties at all right there. So, I mean, John is always going to be like, oh, well, you got to be on the bench. I hope that's not the case, because he does deserve to start. But folks, let us know your thoughts about the ALCS roster, Blue Jays and Mariners, in the comments down below. We are going to be live later this evening, hitting that go live button right at 7:30. Do a little bit of a pregame once the lineups have come out and everything like that. And then, of course, watching the entirety of the game. Probably going to be a late night. Okay, these have been long games. I'm anticipating that we might be live right up until midnight, honestly, depending how things goes. But we look forward to seeing all you guys there.
Hit that like button, smash that subscribe button. $4 a month to become a YouTube member. Shout out, thank you to all of our current YouTube members. You guys are freaking awesome.
Thanks so much for watching, everybody. And as always, go Jays, go!